One more video, this one about the next assignment. I started actually with this crazy slide of Goofus and Gallant. Now no one has sat in doctor's clinics as long as I have probably, and you haven't had to page through the Highlights magazine to see Goofus and Gallant. But I do have to warn you that the next slide has a lot of words, and it's not how slides should be put together. So I'm more of a Goofus when I'm doing this, though luckily I'm not running with the scissors. I say this because I'm trying to get better results, and to do that I need to do a certain kind of way of teaching the assignment. If you're taking a look at chapter 7, you can notice that it discusses how there are better quality sources, and we're pretty judgmental when it comes to getting our sources, as you may have heard. It's not just any source that will do, and so I want us to be very careful with them. We don't want to be Goofus after all and run with that scissors. So okay, over the next 2 weeks, you're to follow a pattern that's not so very different from what we've done before, but I hope you see the larger connection between what we're trying to do. We read the assigned chapters in the book. We review the content modules, including supplementary videos. We post on the bulletin board as before and take quizzes. Now the only thing that will change over the next 2 weeks is that you'll see the assignment being separated out so that we can do better on them, and the writing assignments themselves will have 2 parts. First comes an annotated bibliography. What's that fancy word? It has to do with dealing with good sources first, and I explain how to do that and even show you examples of them online. But that part has to come first because before we can actually say something, we have to acknowledge, investigate, evaluate our sources. How could it be otherwise, I say here? Because we're so used to in the world just spouting off the top of our heads one opinion that might be totally uninformed. I just saw last night a discussion on the news with people who had not been paying attention to anything that was going on, had no sources, but were just talking out of their hat. We don't need any more of that. There's too much of it already. And college can't really encourage that. It's not so much that we want you to just think like we do. That's not the case. We want you to understand what makes for quality sources and to really articulate that back in paper in your discussion of sources yourself. That's the annotated bibliography, and I'll show you the setup of that and how that differs. It's going to make you provide things that you commonly call citation. I'll probably call bibliography. It's when you do the funny little names of the sources with the titles and the authors, but it'll have you do a little bit more than that because I want you to explain what you find in the source. Annotated means that you explain it, and so that comes first. It has to come first, and I explain actually why we do evaluate sources first on another video. The second part comes in the next week, so you don't turn that in with the first part. Now, those people not paying attention will probably make the mistake and turn it in. I'll make you go back and do it again. But the first part has to be about the sources and what makes for good sources on your topic. It's not immediately obvious, and it's not going to be just sources I hand to you, although I will direct you a little bit so that you can help tell me what you find. We'll do it inductively, as I explain in a future video, all this preparation. The next step, the second step of the assignment will be in the next week when you actually make a case. We can't do that first because that's illogical to me. It doesn't make any sense. Before we can investigate, before we can talk about anything, we need to acknowledge where we get our sources. And so that will be the second step and it will follow. It won't be turned in the same file. And those people who do turn it in the same file say, are you sure you want to do this? Because you could probably do a better job after I take a look at how you treat your sources and after I give you some suggestions with regard to your topic. Now the goal, of course, by the end of this is that you'll be all set. You'll have the cited material, you'll have the bibliography or what I'll call the works cited pages or references if you're using APA. You have that all set to go. You won't have to spend any more time laboring over that. You can strictly focus on your argument itself. And because I've given you some suggestions in the separate week about how to do that, you'll be ready to go. You'll be all set to go and do well on that. But be patient with it. Take it in steps because that will be the thing that produces better results. There is a video actually explaining why I do it this way or why I started doing this way years ago. But let me just summarize it by saying this. It's how research is usually done. It usually produces better results. And so we can all be gallants and not be a Goofus. We can do it better and be better and be more conscious about the kinds of sources that we choose and why we choose them. Not just because they agree with what we think already. We will come to ideas and topics and issues with ideas already, but because they allow us to see more about the world. That's the better sources. More on that to come. Take a look at the next video if you're ready, but I need to just remind you to be patient with the 2-part assignment that's coming up. Thank you.